it really does take the two of us to come up with either a resolution or an understanding, because if you didn't move that piece, I couldn't have had that other piece, and it's how it always works for us.
Well, we're always combining three strands of fiber. We're always you and I and the divine.
Yeah.
So it's like
we are like a sacred braid. Oh
it is
God,
like
you
a
gave
sacred
me,
braid.
you just gave me
And we
goosebumps.
have that intention
Yeah.
in everything we do.
Yeah.
So we listen to each other.
We might have to
we listen to ourselves.
bring our voice up because we're realizing we're talking
we listen to
quietly
each
to
other,
ourselves here.
and we listen to ourselves, and we listen. And we listen to the divine, and we ask.
Yeah.
And this conversation we're having now is
because we're at a crossroads. We got that. We're at a crossroads, and you know what? I think artists live in the intersection of crossroads.
Oh,
I think they do.
Right.
I think part of it is to feel the flow of energy and traffic, and to see the patterns moving.
Yeah.
And where things are going, and how you can either tweak or shift something or create something new out of what you've seen. So part and parcel of being an artist is being comfortable with being at crossroads.
Yeah, being at crossroads.
So that's why we've come to this recording, that we are sharing this conversation with ourselves. I love the sacred braid. There's the two of us and the divine, the three strands are braiding together. So talk about climbing the vine of potential, and the the Rapunzel braid reaching out the window to ground itself, to be able to go up and down. But I think while we're in the process of completing what we need to do for what we see for this December show, we've also come to a crossroads of the realization that each year that we do this particular show, it's always in December. So with that comes a lot of the intensity of our work to move to completion happens in what happens all year long, because we're fleshing it out. But a lot of the physicality of putting it together and putting it into a painting, putting it into 3D work, happens in most of the intensity in late September and October and into November. And that also is a time that the Gaia is shifting into autumn and moving towards winter. And that brilliance and burst of color and everything, and all the glory for us of being outside in New England at the height of the season of beauty and the burst of color. A lot of times we're intensely working on our work inside, and feel like we're missing some of that. And on one level we know we're not, but physically not being outdoors in the color, we really are missing that. So we have to look at how we assimilate this and any changes that we want to make, just like on a piece as you're working with it.
We worked outside
you moved
this
changes.
Summer.
We did, and we had a glorious time with it.
I think that's why we did.
Yeah.
We needed to feel the beauty of our garden and just be in the center of it. And we worked so hard in the spring to germinate all the seeds of the flowers that we grow. And we reinvent the garden every year practically.
Yeah. And we reinvent ourselves. You know what? I think that's what an artist does.
Well, the garden
reinvent
this year,
their atmosphere.
You're right. Is part of we reinvent ourselves for this body of work we're doing, that we share out into the world. And it's hard at times to repeat that year after year when you don't quite see what everything you do, where it goes. You know, its purpose is not done with this conversation with you, and so it's not even done at the show.
No.
There's so many more layers, and it's already become part of the fibers of next year's show. And that's kind of the harder part, is that it's wonderful to be working with the fibers of next year's show and the next year's show and the next year's show.
Yes.
But it's also hard to to bring it what is for this year's show. Just stay with it enough that you
That-
get enough parts to complete it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really true, because when we're doing our shows, it's never for just this show.
Yeah.
I mean, our work. When we're doing our work, we're working probably 3 to 5 years out,
Mhm.
and we're having to, and that's what happens in weaving and braiding, is you reach and you grab the other fiber and you weave it in, and then you weave the other
Well,
strand
I
in.
think in honoring of everything that we make, there's nothing that we make that isn't part of a conversation for the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot of fibers to
That
work
is a
with at
lot
one
of
time, and
fibers.
then sometimes
Yeah.
it's overwhelming. And so here we've been pulling in the fibers of listening, and I wonder if the show itself should be the fibers of our listening. You know, not only us but everyone.
Yeah.
The fibers of what we listen to, and I think that this year we have the guardians of the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the heart mind.
Yeah.
And then we have the guardians of the dream time. We're bringing, because the dream time is connected to the fibers of Gaia.
Yeah.
And it connects not only children but ourselves to the fibers of Gaia.
As-
So this year,
Yeah.
in addition, we're trying to do council,
Mm-hmm.
which are five chairs.
Yeah.
And what's happened in our lives is that we always have a council.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a really good council, and sometimes it's things that don't deserve to be in council to us.
Mm-hmm.
But they have scared us and used of their weight and their leverage to be on our council.
Mhm.
And so if you have 5 chairs of council, then you have one chair that speaks to you who you are and where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have another chair of council that speaks to you of what is unfolding from the place and position you are right now.
Yeah.
And then the next council member talks about what you can trust about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that you can do it.
Yeah.
And then the next council member is the tool. The council member that shows you all the different fibers of what will actually service your need of having counsel,
Mm-hmm.
of being able to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fifth one is what that council member is about, what you dream of or what you need to complete the gift of your life, what you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not very well spoken,
Well,
but
it is.
but I think that what's happening is, for me, as we're going closer to this show, is that I thought I was doing just 5 members of council from the Dreamtime, calling each one a member
Mm-hmm.
for a different position, and that it was just a manner of a way of displaying
Mm-hmm.
the power of council, in the
Mhm.
show. But I don't feel it's that at all anymore. It's much more serious, and it's much more. It's because I'm starting to meet up with the fibers of what is in my council,
Mm-hmm.
and not all of it. Not all of it is helpful, and it goes all the way back to your childhood,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even other lives. that
Probably other
brought
lives
in,
too.
and they have sat in those seats.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is your whole life, it's whatever that council is, it sits in, instead of sitting in council, a lot of times it sits in judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like way back as I move forward into the fibers of what I listen to and all of us listen to, the council is much more than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're sitting right here in front of nasturtium. It's definitely one of the chairs in council, and I really didn't know why, because it's not, you don't think of nasturtium as a mighty council seat, but she is, because she is the new seat for what has counseled
Do we know
me about what I
this
consume.
this may be too early to ask this, but do we know what position of council she's sitting in that seat?
I hadn't thought about it yet.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
One.
She's checking right now to see.
She's seat number 4.
So she's giving us the tool. So the tool to work with is assimilating. So
And
that's
the
what we
ease of it.
and the ease of assimilation. So this is what we are. Look at this, just positionally right now. She's up on a table and she's on a chair. So when we're sitting down, so her head is a good 3 feet above ours. So we're sitting at the feet of. This is really cool. Here's this smaller doll.
I could get it to read what
Okay.
it is. I'll be right
The
there.
smaller doll that is a council member of a sacred inner council, and she's showing us that positionally we're like the young children coming to her, oracling to ourselves an answer, and she's in the position of being the tool. She says the tool is the ease of assimilation. So I think that's quite grand that we have a willingness to listen, because this show, with having these council seats, the council originally, going way back into antiquity, was the matriarchal line, and that was a council that nurtured, helped you to assimilate your life.
Oh, that's true.
And then all of those seats at one point in history were displaced by the patriarchy. And in those seats sat judgment as opposed to nurturance. It's a big difference, it's a huge difference. So in our lives and in culture, we have these authoritarian figures that are saying you should and you're supposed to do this and that. And it doesn't line up from the inside of what nurturing and compassion and love is. So in the process of our creating these from what we're listening to and what we are following is bringing an ease of nurturing to us, and that's what we're sharing with other people.
We have here in the Dreamtime
Okay.
nasturtium. Nasturtium blooms with ease along the garden edge. So she's on the edge of things. She helps us when we lean into the edge and we're on the edge of the way society sees things. She brings ease to all you eat. Let nasturtium help you move what you eat with ease.
Okay.
And that's a huge tool.
Huge.
To be able to move your consciousness and what you eat into a place of ease. And we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But in the everyday life, that council seat is really filled up with something
really
else.
Filled up.
And so we are now replacing what in our lives tries to move things with not ease, and tries to actually grunt and groan and doubt everything that we love, everything that brings us joy. And so on so many levels, we're putting these dream times in that council so that people can actually register something different in those council seats than what they presently have, which doesn't at all fulfill them, give ease to their lives, give wisdom to their questions. So I didn't quite realize that. I just thought we were just choosing different ones.
Yeah, they're imbued with that energy. It's just
but they're actually replacing 5 other councils that have a position.
It's a reclamation of their seats.
Like court in our life. that
that inner
absolutely,
court, that inner,
which
the
is
people,
about your inner core.
yeah, and people are always talking about your inner critic and the monkey mind and all the chitter chatter. Well, those are those
Those are other
people.
members in your council seat.
Yeah, they have usurped your sovereignty and taken over those seats of council that were meant for compassion, nurturing, well-being, ease, and
Assimilation.
So,
Without our food, we're types of beings that don't do well without food at all.
mm-hmm,
And we're all really aware that we need to be aware of what we eat now. We have that kind of consciousness.
mm-hmm,
And we need to be aware of how it enters our life and how we eat it and when we eat it and what's inside of it.
yeah,
And so what we need to do is put nasturtium in that council seat
mm-hmm,
that will assure that all of that is done with ease,
yeah.
and compassion.
And I just realized that if we're,
Because people become very violent about what they eat and don't eat. It's really,
it becomes a real battle.
It's a real battle
Within themselves and then exteriorly. I just realized that if as this progresses, if this is in fact a podcast, then this is the Creative Life Show with Robert and
Suzanne.
And in the background, you're listening to music by Gabriel Sound, which is a combination
she'll be in all of our Creative Lives now.
Christina and Christina DeShulo and Suzanne Miller.
Yeah, and they call Gabriel Sound together.
And we are so lucky to have them as our musical compatriots.
Well, we have finished. The other two more council members are finished for the seats.
Okay.
And one of them is Grandmother Moon. And the other council seat is Raven. So those are, and it's so funny how they evolved. Grandmother Moon, just all at once, she was easy. We knew that she was the council for for one of the seats, and that's all about cycles, moving cycles in your life. And so, what was in that seat before, and I don't know which seat it is. Do you? There is something in that seat now that doesn't allow the ease of moving cycles in your life. And so we're having we're having a whole new forum set up in our life that brings joy to us and honors. Now, Grandmother Moon is always moving cycles of your life. Like Grandmother Moon, you're always changing. Allow yourself to change and realize the difference is good. And I think that's one of the hardest things when we're in change.
That is really hard.
Is to trust
know that it's good.
Everything that it's good and the change is good. There is definitely another council member in that seat other than Grandmother Moon. And when you start changing, it is very, very sometimes annihilating of who you are. It's very, very critical. And we get those council members in those seats in our life when we're small.
We do.
And so this one, she is the fourth, the nasturtium. What is Grandmother Moon? Is she seat number 1, 2, or 3?
I think she's seat number 1.
Okay, then Grandmother Moon is now coming into where you are right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and a change in cycles. And usually that's when you pull a dream time is to know, where am I right now?
Yeah.
Perfect. And shows you that you're changing and it's good.
Yeah.
Oh, she's the perfect number 1 seat. And what has been there is what really, since it's always hard in this world, it's got to be something that is in the position of Grandmother Moon that is afraid of change, feels annihilated by change, feels abandoned by change, feels painful. Change is painful, and is warlike because of change. So that is a big seat.
Yeah, it's huge.
And so Grandmother Moon is now sitting in that seat instead of what's been sitting there. And it's different from all of us.
And that's a crossroad.
And that's a crossroad, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's when you sit into a question, is that number one. Okay.
And then the
Okay, the next one is the chair that we have provided and we finished is Raven. Raven, deep is her black, and soft is her velvet wing. Deep is her color, so you could know that black is for room. Paint black where you want more room. So, let's see, we filled seat 1 and seat 4. So we still have 2, 3, and 5.
2, 3, and 5.
You're getting the seats, so I'll let you get the seats.
I think she's 3.
Okay,
She's
3.
in the trust position.
Okay, that's interesting. So Raven is in the trust position. She's in the council 3. And that's where what you can trust about yourself, you can be sure of. So, you're sure you want more room?
You're sure you want more room. And you're sure that you can, with the help of the tool that's coming with assimilation, that you're going to be able to assimilate this deep color. This deep color, this velvety black, and it's a wing. It's her wings that are carrying. And you know how earlier today we've had to lift up high, see a bigger picture, come up way high. Well, it's like riding the wings of the raven, and as she flies, more black is created as a background, like the music is a background, as a soft, expansive background.
And I thought maybe if you had another bird, like eagle or hawk, but you couldn't even, if you don't have more room, you can't even begin to work with the sight of eagle, the bigger picture, because you'd be overwhelmed. You don't have enough room for all that. And then the hawk is such a messenger, but you have to have room to take in the message. So she is the perfect, that's what you have to know first. And Raven works with clarity, bringing the light into the darkness. And so that you're able, then know that you are able to bring light into the darkness. And you are able to assimilate that light that's in the darkness, and that you're able to utilize black.
And we don't have dragonfly, do we? No,
well, we haven't made that as a chair yet.
Not made it as a chair, so.
We do
and she
have...
may come into that, and she may not, we're not sure.
Yeah, we also have done the Dreamtime totemics. We've already done fox. I mean, any of those are on boards that could go into chairs. We've done fox. We've done turtle. We've done, what's the other one?
We just did elephant.
And then there's another one, fox, turtle, elephant, owl.
Owl.
We've done owl.
Yeah.
So, we have, let's see, 3 chairs occupied. So we have 2 more chairs, and any of these can go in it, or we'll...
And so what we're doing is, by talking this, because this conversation is helping us feel our way through and get the bigger picture at the crossroad. But the reason we're sharing it is, as other creatives that might be listening to this, there are plenty of times in your studio work or your daily life where you come to a crossroads, and we're showing you a tool that helps us. This guiding tool that helps open a pathway of ease for us if we sit into these seats.
Yeah, I think that the key thing is well, why animals, why trees, why flowers, is that when you're working with a discipline of sort, a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing, a direction to go into, it's got to be something that you go to a lot. It can't be something that's kind of outside your daily regime.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be something that you do every day, or you see every day, or you think of every day, or it's a childhood persuasion that you love.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, it's like when we work with making an intention in our lives solid, we'll work with our menu, and we'll intent inside the menu of the week
Mm-hmm.
a Gaia oracle, or the oracle of compassion, and that will be, that whole week will be about focusing ourselves into that oracle of compassion, and then you center everything you do to be moving toward. This is kind of like when people do the positive thought and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
this is more natural in our flow,
Yeah,
and
it's a lot more organic for
yeah,
us.
it's more organic for us. And so we eat 3 times a day. Well, we do that every day, or at least 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a way to intention. So we ask for food that will help us assimilate that intention.
Yeah.
And
And it's just a matter of the asking.
yeah, what did you do with the iPad?
That's right here.
I was going to get the oracle.
And while you're looking for that, and if you're listening to this and you're a single person, an artist in his studio or her studio, and it's just you, still this works. Where for your menu for the week, if you set an intention, and that's just a willingness to do that, just thinking that I intend that for Monday, whatever I am moved to choose, my intention in choosing it is to help support me in my work and in a certain path that I'm moving toward, and then do that for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and write it down. This is where it helps. Writing it down and following that, it can shift and change, but for the most part, it works, because what we found is, just like when you're creating something, if you're moving through something and you're creating shapes or color or whatever it is, in a course of a history of your continuing to do this, you find things that do work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, otherwise you wouldn't keep moving forward. Well, we've done this long enough with 12 people for 30 years that this works. Well, that's a pretty good track record.
Mm-hmm.
It really does help. So that's something we're not just sharing with you that, oh, it might work. It'd be like someone saying, well, here's a pencil that draws maybe.
Well,
No, it really does do that.
You develop oracles in your life because you
Mhm.
listen to everything. Oh, we listen to all the bad sounds. We listen to all the good sounds. We listen to we listen to all the things that happen in our life. A book falls on the floor. Someone talks about something, and it's synchronous to what we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we listen to all those things. And the more things like that we listen to, the more accurate we are in finding the truth of what's speaking to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for us, like in the Kuan Yin, because it is, we created the oracle to actually bring compassion, not judgment, but to be an oracle of compassion, sit in the chair of what is found for us in our intention. And like I just now picked out one out of the, it was already at this one on the, in the Kuan Yin oracle, was 29. Forward is the relief of sound you seek. Listen, look, and it will appear magic.
Mm.
Now, if that was the oracle that we pulled for the whole week to intention all our menu around being able, we would be intentioning for the relief of what we want to see to come to us and what we seek. We seek to be able to listen and to look and to see it disappear, to see it appear,
Mm-hmm.
and that's magic. And that is like we intention our breakfast and our supper and our lunch, that would be our purpose. So what you're doing is you're making everything that you do that week wish fulfilling,
Mm-hmm.
to fulfill your wish of forwarding your consciousness and your ability to reach on all levels what it is you seek.
Yeah.
And it's really is not different. It's just taking your focus
Mhm.
back, and what sits in those chairs in your life right now that aren't Gaia and are not focused on being able to hear what you seek, that you put something new in that seat.
Mhm.
Once you do that over and over again, it's not so hard to do.
Yeah.
It's easier to put that in the seat of the council rather than what's been sitting there that's told you you never will get relief, you
Mhm.
never will find what you seek, and there is no magic in the world.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we all hear that. I know from our very small childhood. I mean, when we first were told there was no Santa Claus and there were no fairies
Mhm.
and there was no... I felt so much that I so believed in the divine that just couldn't be possible.
Yeah.
Because I knew that world was not so different. And so I knew that somewhere the divine existed for me in every single thing. And I knew that there was magic there.
Yeah.
And so that's, you develop what you call your fibers of listening. And you can either develop it from a teacher
Mhm.
or a parent that doesn't follow you, does not know who you are really, doesn't have your dream, and has a lot more fears around your dream than you do.
Mhm.
That's, we all experience that.
It wasn't until you said that it just, you gave me a chuckle, because I didn't realize that, okay, when you get to a point where someone tells you that, when they feel they have to tell you that, I'm sorry, but there are no fairies and there is no magic, it's usually the same person that originally told you about fairies and told you about magic. Now, why did they begin it that way, just to tell you later on that it isn't true? Because the disconnect isn't with you and whether you believe that or not. The disconnect is with them, that doesn't understand that in the storytelling and in the words and the power of that, the origination of the idea comes from the same place that all originations come from, a place of real. It doesn't come from something that's not,
Mm-hmm.
it comes from something that is. So that's why they would begin to tell you about it in the first place, because they're okay with a little child believing in the is of something. But later on,
Because they get to visit it with them.
yes. But then later on, they know the bigger outer world doesn't believe that anymore, because they've shucked it off. And so
Well, it also had to do with the workforce.
So part of it is trying to be a protection that, oh, no, you can't act as though that's a real thing. It's a real thing, but you certainly can't act that way out in that world, because of all the negative things that will
But a big
occur.
key,
But that's not even a truth.
a big key in that is that it has to do with the workforce,
Yeah.
the work world.
Yes.
Because at the age of between 10 and 12, children were expected to go to work.
Oh my God. Yes.
And
that's when they had to.
And there was no, their parents all at once, it was not fun that they believed in all that, because they have to send them into the work world. And none of that belongs in the so-called work world. And so they had these little magical children, and they had to destroy that, completely annihilate it, so that they would
They
go
have a worker.
and they would be able to work in society. And it was really, I thought it was so brought out in what was the one about the fairies? Fairy tale. The film was brought out about the small girls that saw fairies.
Oh, yeah.
No thing, but the brother had been so magical, and he at 12 was made to go to work, and he lost it, took all of his hope, and he got ill and he died. And this is what happens: either we physically die, or there's a big piece that dies, because at that point, up until then, the magic and the stories of old and the wanderings of in the woods and fairy tales and all that was all there sitting in that seat. And it's been squashed, and something very big and foreboding is put in its place. And that's one of those seats. So it fills your seat of who you are. So there is no more magic in you. There is no more fairy tale in you. There's just this person that has responsibility and is laden down with the weight of responsibility and caring for and taking care of the family and the younger members in the family. And that's also not too far from puberty, and so it goes right into that.
So I'm realizing that the crossroads that we're seeing, the crossroads that we are to rise up to see a bigger picture is, we are at a crossroads. We are at a crossroads of whether to carry forward this idea that we've been given from a realm of magic and carry it forward in its full reality. That takes a pretty brave soul in this day and time to say, this that you think is whimsical, childish, little magical,
untrained,
trinkly thing, you think that's real, and we're saying
it has no training wheels.
And I can't imagine that you think that it's not. And it's not in opposition to where they are. It's just for us. This is an unfoldment of the deep listening. We're listening to the origination, to an original thought that is where all original thought comes from, is a place of real.
So what chairs have we not yet we've completed the cycles.
The first one is Grandmother Moon.
And we're in the process of completing Raven,
and Raven is the third seat of trust.
Okay, and then...
And the fourth one is Nasturtium,
which is the tool.
So
and we don't have that one finished, so this conversation...
is in process of that.
Developing the tool.
Yeah, and I didn't know if the Dragonfly, which is the piece we're working on also presently, has to do with the dream time. And here we're talking about the dream time, the mystery in the dream time. So she very well could end up being in one of the seats as well.
So how many seats we have done?
So
1, 2, 3?
We've done 3.
Okay, 4, 5. So I know that one of them I felt was a boy. So
yes,
and the boy I've kind of connected with Bear.
I think that's the second seat.
Okay, and then she's one of the seats.
Okay, yes. So Bear is the second one.
Okay.
Bear is
the second seat, which is it's what's unfolding, what will unfold everything, where you are, and what you want, what will help unfold. What's in the process of unfolding is Bear.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong place.
Oh, sorry.
Get it right.
Thank you. So Bear will be in the second seat. And who is she? It's a gift? Do we know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, so you're in the mystery with us as we're unfolding. We're in the crossroads.
I just know that she's big and she's going to sit in a seat. So.
Yes. Yep. And I'm just looking at her outfit, and it's almost, her hat is almost Elizabethan in a way, so I don't know if that's an indicator. And with the little rose.
Yeah, which one are we looking at? Bear? Okay.
Bear.
You got touch down here. Then you touch up there.
So you are, we are literally taking you through the process of the dream time and oracling to yourself and pitching yourself forward into the future. It's almost like I realize that as you're talking the thing with, you know how little kids like to puzzle to call Where's Waldo? And they look for that little tiny figure in all this big mass of stuff. I think part of that is there's a sense that they're looking for this other person, Waldo, but they have to kind of become Waldo to know his outfit, to really, really look for him and find him. Well, these things are like pitching yourself forward, like you're a little Waldo, and you're pitched into this great, big, massive, expansive universe, and then you have to go find yourself. And you pitch yourself back and forth. It's the pitch, like a note, a pitch. And you're listening for the note to see where you find it. So what's Bear?
Bear. Bear sees your light through his silence. Listen, be quiet, and let yourself hear your quiet space. What does your quiet space say about what you want to know to make you feel happy? Are you feeling alone? Then see what the alone has to give. And alone is so much that in-between space. And so Bear is about that in-between space. He's about where you actually need to sit inside the silence and ask what it is that you're needing. So
I like that. So from the grandmother moon
so what
cycle,
would be unfolding from finding out what you are is this space.
It's the space.
I never saw it as this space before.
And the introspection, the bear goes into the dark cave. So that's leading straight into the next one, which is Raven, going into the black for introspection. So it goes into the black and comes into Raven. And then Raven bringing that room.
But see, that's the way we did it in the gates.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
We went through the dragon's gate, through the tongue of the dragon, into the bear's gate, through the tongue of the bear, into the raven's gate.
And so this dream time is very much an additional form of going through the gates.
Yeah.
It's going through the gates.
The
gates of transformation.
The gates of transformation of it. Well, that's the gates of identity.
Yeah, the gates of identity. Wow.
Yeah, and so that would be, the first gate would be your cycles of who you are. And then, so here we have, as the second piece, from the gate of knowing who you are, you would actually come into the between.
Yeah.
And you'd sink into the between, and then you would ask. And this escape, this chair has to always be held. And Bear is absolute guardian in that place. And we need an absolute guardian, because that is the place where we get lost so many times. And where, like, the dragonfly is needed in that place is where the illusion is. But all the different, these are the council seats.
These are the council
But then the others are the council, where the council seat member goes and finds.
Yes.
Like Bear in this place of darkness, he would take you into that place and let you be alone, and you'd see what the alone has to give. And in there, he would take you to Dragonfly. And he would take you to Sunflower. He'd find whatever one would be unfolding.
Yeah.
So he's in charge of the between.
Oh, so you know what you've shown is, remember, with that knowing, feeling, recognition, understanding, discernment, those 5. Well, then there's that knowing of the knowing. See, it's an infinity.
So 5 goes in all the different
things. In all the directions.
Have.
It's circumferent.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Okay.
That's a big expansion for us.
And so the second chair is Bear.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the third is Raven. The fourth is Nasturtium. And then she is
the fifth position.
And she's in the
Bear's
process
boy.
of
There's
coming.
A boy with Bear.
Yeah. And she's in process. So this is,
she's in process.
you're really seeing the fleshing it out. This is the part where we've come to. And then
she's a large doll.
And then she will unfold and inform us. She will inform us who she is, who she wants to be,
so
what she's
the fifth
about.
Chair?
She's the 5th one. She's the gift.
So that's
she's
the
bringer
gift.
of the gift.
Yeah. Oh
and
my
the
God.
gift.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, the gifts that we're seeking right now, it's like, for me, it's getting what's in those chairs emptied and getting into that chair.
Yeah.
A much more compassionate, heartfelt being that allows me to, because even when I'm relaxed, I feel those 5 seats. I feel those 5 seats of whatever is counseling me in that time of my life. And we become we've become, we can't even hear it anymore. We can feel it. We feel it in our emotions and when we begin to move. And sometimes we hear it in sound, but we don't even know who they are and where they came from.
They've been so displaced.
That we become what is. They are calling everything, but we don't know who is the king and queen.
Yeah.
We don't know who is the royal.
Who's sovereign?
Who's sovereign here. And so we have what people call the elites that are moving the world around. Well, they're sitting in our chairs.
They are.
And this is designed to take them out.
Yep.
And take them out of the, and if this goes into imprints all over the world, it will start taking out. And it has to be taken out not in election. It's got to be taken out in your selection in your life, what you've elected to be in those 5 seats.
Yeah.
And you have to go into Bear to find it. And then you have to know, Raven, that you're okay there and you will get clarity and you know how to bring the light into this. And then you know that you can assimilate it, your tool, that you can assimilate this so it's not too scary to go there, and then the gift. So it's like,
this is wonderful. This is what the creative life is about, is living a creative life.
well, when
Not creating
Dale
a
asked
product.
us what it was that we listened to. Well, people are like all suspicious. Well, if you're listening, what are you listening to? Listening to everything. We're listening to everything, because if we say the divine is in everything, then how are you ever going to hear the divine if you don't start listening to everything? And what you look for is the divine in it. You know, and the divine. What's divine to you? What kind of being is divine? You know, what kind of dream you have of what you know is divine, and you'll follow that. And then all at once, the flowers will start talking to you, and then the trees will start talking to you, and the animals. People all over the world have animals talking to them. One way or another, they're snuggling up to them, they're cuddling them, they're fulfilling their needs. It's like, and trees, people all over the world are listening to trees, and trees are listening to each other.
And now they're finding out the tree language that exists.
That was already there. And so when you ask, what are you listening to? It's everything. I'm listening to everything. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to the book that fell on the floor. I'm listening to the squeak in the car. I'm listening to what Robert says and what he says and what's behind what he says and what moves him to that kind of conversation. I listen to my children, but
I listen to you, and it's just, I love
I listen
what
to
you
my
listen
body.
to. Yeah.
You listen
do.
to your meridians. You have meridians. You have nadias. You have organs. You have a heart. You listen to all the parts of you and how it speaks to you and how it tells you, be guarded here, or you're safe here, or I don't feel safe here. Take me somewhere where I can rest. So that your body is constantly speaking to you. When it hurts in a certain area, it's got something to say, and it's learning to listen to all of it. And our work is about taking all those fibers and going really close up on them. We listen to all the indigenous people and all their oracles and all their customs and the way they see things and their history. And listen to all of that, because we're in the very beginnings of our world, and they still have a memory of it. And they're in primary colors, because primary colors break through. They're the colors that bring down the walls. And so it's like, what do you listen to is what can I listen to next so that I can hear more. It's a whole life of journey and then you learn to hear that fiber, and that fiber's part of what you know. And where we write from now are all those listening and all those fibers of listening that we gather in our hands, and we use all of them. It's like playing an instrument.
Yeah.
And so all of them come into what we write, and all of it comes in to our poetry, And all of it comes into, all that knowledge and all that listening comes into each individual piece of art, each individual, whatever that piece of art comes from.
Listening to the notes of someone talking and listening to the sound that they create with what they say. When there's something new being said, it's for the listener to expand into it. I can imagine when they first, I don't know, when someone first created a musical instrument. Here's this box shape, this neck with some strings on it, and you could show it to someone, and they would say, well, there are no notes there. It's just a wooden box with strings on it. But the person that knew how to play it would put their fingers in certain positions and create this melody. So it was there for them. They knew it, even though the other person couldn't see it. But they could hear something new to them. And they go like, oh my God, how did you do that? How did you know where to put your fingers? It's a matter of discovery.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
magic. Magic is discovery. That's what magic is. It's discovering something new.
And to be magical is to be curious.
All that we've created in the 30 years that we've been together is magic. It has been a journey of discovery. We have discovered for ourselves that if we place ourselves this way, this way, this way, and this way, we create a melody and a song and a sound. And you can hear it, and you can see it. When people see our work, when we do put together a show, they can see the beauty of color. They can see the shapes that we've created, the figures that we've created that they've never seen before.
We use a lot of black in our shows now.
Yeah, and people that are open to that.
But they're seeing, what we're trying to show them is what comes out of black.
Yeah.
How much room you get out of black.
Mm-hmm.
How many pieces can we do on a black piece and create all kinds of different glowing, wonderful pieces, is showing them what comes out of who they are, which is Raven, that energy of clarity and bringing the light into the darkness. I mean, that's who we are. We're here to bring light into the darkness.
Yeah. It's like out of the void, which people call black, the void of space, the void, which they call nothing, is where everything is. So out of the nothing comes everything. Well, how's that possible? Well, it's just like the yin and yang symbol, the black, the little black comma and the little white comma swirling around each other with the opposite color dots in each other. It's just a constant motion.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
It's when we started, there was a film out that I adored, and it was called The Never-Ending Story. And it was all about what they called the nothing. And what really happened from all of that was, all at once, the children of the world didn't believe in the magic and in the other world, this world of people find in books and everything. But what I'm saying is that the nothing, it's like they had to see all the nothing. They had to see it take everything, so that they would know how much, if it could take it, then how much comes out of it. So they had to take the so-called nothing out of their chair, because it was the chair where everything came out of.
Yeah.
And so you watched it all go black to know that in that black there's everything. So it's endless. So then when they recreated it, it had the boy that was reading the book, his dreams in it too. And so they had him in the Never-Ending Story. He was in the story in addition to Atreyu.
Yeah.
And the little boy was the moon child, which is Grandmother Moon, the child of Grandmother Moon, which is the first chair as of where you are. And it's like, out of that, then they recreated this land, and it had the boy in it, in addition to Atreyu and the princes, and everything that the boy wanted, the horse and everything. And so I think in some ways we are coming to that ourselves in this world.
Yeah.
Is we're coming to where the nothing is just becoming bigger and bigger
Its
and
greed
bigger.
is so huge.
Its greed is so huge that it just cannot ever be
satisfied.
satisfied. And in it is what, the wolf was the the one that was following that process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really our own hunger,
Mm-hmm.
our own wolfness about us
Mm-hmm.
that hunger a deeper identity. And so I really feel this world, that the whole thing with the politics and everything is that we're going to watch. It's the nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It is the nothing, and it is eating up our world until we know our own names.
Yeah.
Until we have our own identity, and that our fingerprints are all
and the
different.
only way, as you,
And our identity as a world, and in it are these totemics that we're putting in the chairs of council
mm-hmm.
are the ones that are designed to actually overthrow what is presently in council. And the nothing, because it's nothing.
Yeah.
It is the nothing that is in council right now in our world. And so once we definitely bring in these, we are definitely saying our name.
Yeah.
I am this, and
Mm-hmm.
I am this, and I am this.
And what as you're talking at these, because you talk in the words that give people images, your words that give me images all the time, which is what I love. And all of a sudden, since I mentioned the word greed, okay, greed, okay, if greed could grow to its full extent, the only thing left would be the last poverty. Okay, here's the whole world. As greed happens, then here's this other whole world of poverty. Okay, and it even eats all of it up until there's the last person that's the most poverty-stricken person.
Like in the Never Ending Story.
And then it'll eat poverty, and then the only thing left for it to eat is, it's eaten up with greed. So then greed eats itself. It consumes itself, and the only way that something comes out of that nothingness is that you finally get to a point where you consume yourself. You have to sit in all the seats.
The whole beauty of you.
The whole beauty of you, and you have to believe in its light, that is that single grain of light left. And that sends the greed into oblivion. It dissolves into...
It goes back to itself.
To its source, and that's it.
That's it.
That's the end of it.
Yeah.
So the crossroads that we are at is these shows have consumed us for 30 years, and what we were bemoaning over earlier this morning was the loss of our autumns, of the color, we're in it, but there are days when we're in the studio that, oh my God, that was a beautiful day, but this is eating up our time. This is consuming us. In the most glorious way.
Consumed with it.
We are being consumed. We are being eaten up, inside out, with the discovery of the magic. And it's so real. It is so real that it has become our life, and it is our life. We are wholly within it. WHOLLY and HOLY. It is sacred to us. It's what feeds us. It feeds our spirit. It feeds our body. Because it feeds our spirit, our bodies are fed, our minds fed, everything is fed. This is where the real deep food, the richness of it all is. And so here's the grandmother, the ancient matriarchal cycle of everything coming and sitting into her, well, she sat there, but now we can see her sitting there, and she is there completely.
What has been there for us individually in our lives is gone.
Yeah.
As each seat is filled,
yeah,
that starts leaving, and you feel it leaving, and lots of weird and different ways, sometimes a little unruly ways.
Unruly.
Yeah, and all at once you realize
It's not
there's
dainty
something
all the time, is it? Calming?
Calming and common to us. It's
Oh, I
common
like that.
like not common like in a small way,
No.
but it's kindred.
Kindred.
There's something
Oh, I
there
love that.
that's
Common
kindred to us, and we have no explanation for it. We feel it.
You feel it.
And what's in counsel behind it, in your life, that sits in that first chair
I can feel them more.
is, I'm starting to become more aware of.
Me too. And I can see that second seat. I can see the bear ambling into the council.
Yeah.
And whatever was in that seat, it's hightailing it out of there, because that bear...
we in our
is-
process, we become aware of what's hightailing out.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's part of our curiosity.
Yeah.
And our discovery.
Yeah.
And so when you ask about what do we listen to, is we listen to everything.
We do.
And there's a lot that has been silenced that you could not listen to in our lives, that we've opened those doors.
Mm-hmm.
And found a richness. It's just like in the world of Gaia, that it is that trees aren't just trees growing. They're great energies.
They are beings.
Of beings that are wise and are healing and know the cycles of things. They know the mother. And it's like, because they know the mother so well, we have made them the council bearers.
Mm-hmm.
Because Gaia, the beings of Gaia, and there's so many wonderful ones, they all listen. And it's what we can frequent the most and the easiest and are most familiar with, most kindred to,
Mm-hmm.
is what we chose as the totemics.
Yeah.
And totemic is what is flesh of your flesh, body of your body, part of your whole.
I know.
And I think that because Gaia, like our food, we return to survive. Gaia is part of our food.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all of these flowers and plants, they either feed our bodies as food,
Mm-hmm.
or they feed our bodies as essence and energy, or as wisdom, example. But they're always listening to the mother. And so every flower we see takes us back to the first chair.
Wow.
We travel through the chairs, but they always should take us back to the first chair.
Mm-hmm.
So all the members of the council have to take us back to the mother. That's what
wonderful.
we've made in our minds
Mm-hmm.
as a council worth sharing. And it's a council that embodies more life force of everything that is already here.
And I think this is a good place
This
to
is
stop with
accept-
this when we're just a couple of minutes over an hour, and that's about a good program.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we will definitely continue with this conversation, because this is rich and deep and wonderful. And you have been listening to The Creative Life with Robert and
Suzanne
thank you so very much.
in council.
In council.